This year is the 5th annual Philadelphia Podcast Festival, and I could not be happier to be bringing Everything Is Awesome back for the 2nd year in a row. That's right, Everything Is Awesome Late Night comes back to the Philadelphia Podcast Fest at Tattooed Moms on Sunday, July 16th from 2 to 3 p.m., and it's going to be so much fun. We have Noah Houlihan on hand to talk about Plus 2 comedy, Game the Gamer. We have Brian Durkin to bring the funny. He's going to tell some jokes. We're going to talk podcasting, full belly laughs, and much, much more. Mike and I will be on hand to talk many things, play games. It's going to be just so much fun. Make sure you make your way out to the 5th annual Philadelphia Podcast Festival, especially from 2 to 3 at Tattooed Moms, so you can see Everything Is Awesome Late Night live.
Everything Is Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revelin Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.
Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. That was awesome. You guys are awesome.
No,
you're awesome. You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything Is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. This week's guest, I actually can't remember, and this just might be me being a terrible host, but I can't remember the last time we actually sat down and spoke with an author, so I'm pretty excited to sit down and speak to another author. We haven't done that in quite some time. Actually, our guest this week is a children's, well, at least the book we're talking about today is a children's book, which would probably be our second children's author in the history of this show. So pretty exciting, especially now that I do podcasting as a dad. It's new and exciting territories in the podcasting world for me. So please welcome to the show the author of Pacha's Pajamas, Dave Room. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Kev. I'm really happy to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks for being on. It's like I said, it's we don't talk to too many authors, which is odd because like that used to be my bread and butter, I would say, in like season 1 of this show. It's been quite some time, so I'm excited to, and especially this book. I told you and. As my audience know, I do very little preps, but you gave me some 411 ahead of time, and you gave me, I think you may be one of the guys that gave me a lot of 411, and I was like, well, you know what, this is enough. I'll look at everything else after the interview so that I'm not too knowledgeable about what's talking on, but you have something unique going on with your book, correct?
Yeah, well, it's an augmented reality book. You put an app over the illustrations in the book, and the characters appear to pop off the page in animations featuring some celebrities like Mos Def, Talib Kweli, and Cheech Marin. Now,
this is augmented reality is relatively a new technology. It's kind of like, in the grand scheme of things, it's in its infancy, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. But the interesting thing, or the fascinating thing to me, is that it's been around for a fairly long time, but people just didn't recognize it. Think about weather reports. Mm-hmm. You have the picture of the actual weatherscape, and then they put arrows over it to show what direction the wind is going, etc. That's all augmented reality. And then the other thing is with the football and some of the other sports shows. On football, you have the 10-yard line. And you see that it's a yellow line. It's digital. That's not a real line there. That's augmented reality as well. But now that's totally an interesting way to put it, because I would say my earliest experience with augmented reality then is football and weather. But I guess I don't even know if they called it augmented reality, but I know the 3DS, Nintendo 3DS had something where you would like scan a card and then you would shoot
things in your living room or whatever room you were in. And that was like my first experience as like, I guess, a gamer or some form of entertainment. And I guess when it was actually called, or first called, augmented reality. And it's something that I've seen more and more, I want to say, children's, and not that all comic books are for children, but like comic books and now I guess in children's book, I've seen them utilize that technology.
Yeah, it's coming along. I'm not totally sure who's doing it in the comic book world, but there's definitely a handful, or maybe even a dozen different organizations, companies that are creating children's books. The unique thing about ours is our book is actually a young reader book, so it's for 7 to 12-year-olds. Almost all the other augmented reality books that I'm aware of are for younger kids. There are a couple, I think Carlton and Penguin both have done some for older kids as well, but ours is relatively unique in that the augmented reality is really narrative driven, and it's not there for the sake of the technology. The technology is really there for the sake of the story with respect to our book.
So we'll get back to the book and augmented reality in a little bit. I kind of like to always get into like the origin story of my guest, and you kind of have I guess like 2 points that I want to hit on with the technology as well as the writing. But where does the love of writing kind of enter your life as a kid, later in life, or where?
I've always been into writing to a certain extent, but it's never been something consistent. Mm-hmm. So I can go back and find a bunch of journals that I might have had for a couple years, and I find poetry, spoken word. I find some short stories that I used to write. I used to write a lot into notebooks. So writing has always been something really helpful for me. I just am now at the point where I've decided that this is something that I'm going to really focus on. Yeah, it's. I think it's something I've been good at, but just there's always been all these other interests, and now I'm saying, oh well, I'm really going to make a go at this.
Oh God, that is the story of my life to a T. Because I would say, like, I think my interest for writing itself kind of peaked within the last couple years, but it's always like it's something that my friend, we have a friend of the show who is a fantasy writer, and I worked with him for a bit, like 10 years ago, on his series, and then it was something that I never took seriously until kind of recently. But it's like, I also I love podcasting, obviously, is my big thing. So like all these other projects kind of have gotten in my way. Was there any big projects that you were working on that got in your way, or just kind of life in general?
I'd say it was life in general, and at the same time, there were a couple projects that really took all my attention, so that I had to give up on the writing. And one of those was starting a nonprofit. It was called Bay Localize, and it was all about helping communities become more resilient by generating their own electricity, growing their own food, gathering and capturing their own water, creating their own businesses within the community to serve the community. And that was really a very much all-encompassing thing. I found trying to organize with adults to be very challenging and time-consuming. Yeah. After a while of that, I decided, you know what? I want to focus in on young people, and I want to move over from being a nonprofit to being a for-profit social enterprise. I was really getting tired of this feast and famine cycle that you have with grants and nonprofits, where you have to do a grant proposal. You kind of fit your idea into something that someone else, the foundation, is wanting, and then you wait 6 to 8 months to find out if you even got it. And that just was a challenging process for me. And I felt like, oh well, let me just switch up and move into the social enterprise world and focus on kids.
Yeah, I mean, I praise anyone that even attempts to do anything that's not for profit and is doing something good in the world, because I would never have the energy to even attempt to do it, because it's just, I mean, based off what you just said, I wanted to, I want to close my eyes and go to bed and not have to deal with anything like that. It is, for me, it's more like I'll pair up, I'll affiliate myself with other people that are dedicated to figuring out how to help people, and I'll just spread their good word. Is the way I do things.
Yeah, well, the nonprofit world is really interesting because it's funded by these people who've made a tremendous amount of money, and in many cases, probably the companies that have allowed them to make the money are actually causing a lot of damage. And then they give the money to the foundation so that the foundation can actually correct some of the damage they're doing.
No, that's an interesting spin. I never look at it that way. And I will continue to probably kind of turn a blind eye to that and still help organizations out. Because at the end of the day, at least some of the ones that I don't know, I find that I do my research, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But I do want to touch on, so it sounds recently you've kind of turned your passion for writing into, like your pet project, your main focus. How did augmented reality kind of get into your writing?
Well, about 4 years ago, a developer who was a friend of a friend was showing us his latest project. It happened to be augmented reality with a book. It wasn't a book that I was interested in, but I was really interested in how they brought that book to life. And I immediately saw how it could be extremely powerful in the context of the story that we were working on, and how it would help get kids really excited about reading books.
Yeah, it's because I would say that as, we get all this technology in our fingertips, it's harder and harder to maybe keep a kid's attention with books. I don't know. I have 2 children myself, and I'm lucky enough to kind of just remember where I like holding a physical book, so I'm not into like the Kindle or whatever. And so like my kids have huge libraries, so I'm very lucky that they're super interested in books. They of course love their technology as well, but that's something that we try to like limit and whatnot. I don't know. I don't want my kids in an iPad 24/7.
Right.
So is I would imagine, because it's the augmented reality actually needs the physical book. There's no way to have an ebook with augmented reality, correct?
Correct. I mean, technically, you could use the Kindle e-reader to view the illustrations in the book, and then put a phone or a tablet over the e-reader, the Kindle reader, and that would work. But for us, that's not the use case that we're most interested in. We're really interested in the use case where the kid is reading the physical book. They come up to an image. They basically scan the image with our app, and it brings the image to life. So that the scene depicted by that illustration may last between 5 and 15 seconds. We actually had a design imperative where we said 95% of the images, the augmented reality graphics, the augmented reality videos, 95% of those should be less than 15 seconds, because we want the augmented reality to be the treat, the dessert. The main course is really the reading.
All right, yeah, because I was gonna say, like, how did writing the book, when you knew you were going to implement augmented reality, did that change how you were writing the book at all?
It didn't change how we were writing the books, but it changed the illustrations that we decided to portray in the book, in the story. it led us to pick certain illustrations over other ones. It led us to put the characters in certain poses because we wanted to have the video, the augmented reality take off from certain points. So it definitely informed more of the visual aspect of the book.
So the augmented reality portions, as you said, are about, no more than 15 seconds. Do they, and this might be just my ignorance to augmented reality, but do they kind of tell their own little short stories within this book, or it just complements the story that you're already telling?
It complements the story we're already telling. In some cases, it presents a little bit of extra information, something that you might have not have noticed through the reading of the book. But in all cases, it's very much tied to the book. It's not taking you on to a whole nother storyline or anything of that sort. And the reason we did that is that studies show if you tie the multimedia or augmented reality to the story, you actually can increase reading comprehension and also expressive vocabulary, which is the reader's ability to speak about what they're actually reading.
Well, and that ties into for me I guess even when I'm reading something, whether it be a news article or a short story or a full-length novel or watching a television show or movie, I love to kind of, I guess, I love to find all the extra information that kind of helps supplement whatever I'm already intaking, because I just like to be I like to have as much information on something as possible whenever I'm really into it, and this sounds like it's a kind of a cool way. I think I've been like that since I was a kid. Like I always loved if I found something that I really enjoyed, I would, I guess back in the day, look in like an encyclopedia or something, to find more information about it. So this kind of, would be like kind of a dream thing for me as a kid, because it is, there's just that extra bit, like, taking the extra bite of the cake, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I see books in the future, assuming that augmented reality in books becomes more popular, which I totally believe is going to happen. I think there's going to be some resistance from publishers because adding in the augmented reality is going to cost more. The cost of doing an augmented reality book is more than it costs to do a regular book. But at the same time, the value, the increased value that you can provide is mind-blowing. And I'm seeing books in the future becoming what I would call basically a curated and guided pathway through the relevant universe of multimedia interactions, potentially with other people, and virtual reality experiences.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I've always been of the mindset that it seems like the world is quickly getting away from printed material, with the death of newspapers and the rise of e-readers. But augmented reality seems like, at least for children's books, I don't know how it would work with adult books, if it could even work with adult books. But with children's books, it seems like it's a great way to help kind of preserve that print. Because, and I mean, as we said, you can use an e-reader. That just seems too cumbersome to have a tablet and a phone. That seems like way too much work for me.
Yeah, that's too much work.
Yeah, but I'm just picturing it myself as a kid, like holding a book and holding my phone on top of it. That seems like it's not too. I mean, practically kids are born with phones coming out of the womb now. So, it doesn't seem like it's that far-fetched for them to read and hold a phone to see this augmented reality. Because I know, obviously, it's cheaper to just have an ebook. So does it cost more because you're kind of forced to print the book, or does it cost more because you develop the app, or does it cost more because you actually have to do something different with the book itself?
It costs more because you not only have to develop the app, but then you have to develop all the multimedia assets that go along with it. Like, so those are videos or animations. Now, of course, in some situations, those assets already exist, in which case the cost may not be that much additional to create the augmented reality book. For example, let's say it's a book about a character for which there's already an animated movie. Maybe they could just leverage the video that they've already done for that animated movie, put it in the augmented reality book, and you basically have one for relatively low cost.
I mean, that totally seems like it would work for like anything really Disney or DreamWorks related or anything. Any animated movie seems like they always have some sort. Like my daughter, who's 3, she has, and I guess my son, when he was younger, have all these like, I don't know, 5-6 page books that are Disney Frozen or Mickey Mouse or whatever. And it seems like that would be a nice, cheap way for Disney to get into the augmented world, because you can just pull from those Frozen movies or whatever. All the kids want to see are little clips of that same movie over and over again.
Totally. And I will say that I see this technology working for a wide variety of books. I just want to throw out a couple out there. Imagine a textbook. It's a physics textbook, and you're in the section where it's describing atoms, for example, and you, in the normal physics textbook, you have a static image of an atom that shows the electrons and the neutrons and the protons. Imagine the photons. Imagine how much more instructive that would be if you could see a video. You could see the video of how the electrons, the protons, and the neutrons are all interacting. You would get a greater sense of it.
You just, I think, blew my mind because that is, I think, a genius. Even if you don't expect students to use their own technology to access this augmented reality, as a teacher, and I'm just kind of throwing this out there because I am not a teacher, but I can, if through the use of technology and a projector and a textbook, it seems that you could be instructing that lesson and then cut to your augmented reality app to show a 3-minute YouTube video that's linked to that image. That is genius and should be the way teachers are teaching now.
Yeah, I mean, I see things move in that direction. And I also see other use cases. Imagine, for example, a catalog. Let's say you owned a catalog. How would you consider moving forward with augmented reality if, for example, your team said, we'd be able to increase the revenues in our catalog by 20%, potentially by having some of these augmented reality videos that give the person the information right when they need it, right when they're about to make a buying decision. You were talking about that earlier, about how important it is to get the information right when you want it. And you were saying how you would go off to the encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Encyclopedia can be right there. The relevant portions of the encyclopedia can be right there in the book, showing you these different products that you could potentially buy.
And it saves time too, because even now in 2017, it's, instead of me going to the encyclopedia, it's me just going to Google and searching whatever it is. So to be able to just hover your phone over it and get right to whatever, to the product, to the an instruction manual to build a bed or a crib. Let's go a little bit more complicated than a bed, to build a crib. That all seems, literally, I'm seeing so many more. I've never thought so much about augmented reality until today. I see a lot of great uses for it now that you kind of bring that to my attention. Now, going back to the world of story, do you see it really going beyond? I think it goes gangbusters for kids, even, as young as 3, who love, kind of flipping through books, love watching 5-minute videos, who have short attention spans, and obviously in the age range that you have written Pacha for, 7 to 12. What about older? What about young adult novels? What about adult novels? I that's where I see it not maybe working out. I don't know. Maybe it's just my old man brain. I'm not sure.
Well, I think it depends a lot on whether there's imagery in those books. If there's imagery in the books, then the author feels like there's some benefit to having imagery. And to the extent there's imagery, it means it's ready to be augmented. If someone wants to put in that effort to create the videos, whether they're animation or whether they're live action videos, create those videos that would be associated with the illustrations in that young reader book, in that the young adult book. I would say anything that where there's a benefit to seeing, to understanding the visual layout of things could be really useful to better understanding characters, to express certain scenes with a lot of emotion in a more rich way. So sky is the limit, and I think that there's definitely some young adult books that would probably benefit from it, but then there's a lot of them that don't have any imagery at all, so probably not so much.
I wonder though if we start seeing the children's books and maybe textbooks or all the other different written material we've talked about. I wonder if the popularity rises enough in augmented reality with those books, if it will change the way authors write to implement it. Maybe they'll make room for those illustrations in their even their adult novels.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility, and to the extent that someone does it and it seems like they're getting a competitive advantage, then other people are going to say, you know what, I want this for my book as well. And we're hearing this already. When we're showing this to authors, they're getting excited and saying, I can actually see this with my book. And I think that it would be helpful for me to go to the market with something like this as well.
Well, I mean, like I said, in 2017, we live in a new media world, and people are probably reading books, more and more in the e-form as adults. But if you, I could totally see. I mean, Netflix just released, and it's obviously for kids first, but they just released their basically choose your own adventure interactive shows, and that I think is going to go over gangbusters, and I think as me, maybe I'm just a big old nerd, but I'm always looking for like this is a neat thing that I can do. I can read this book and like kind of just as I'm reading it, get more information without having to really leave my seat or go to my computer or go to Google. I could totally see it working if the popularity is there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're totally right, and it's going to be something that is going to unfold in the next couple years, maybe 2 to 3, 4 years. We're gonna have a better sense of it. I think also that comic books and graphic novels could be a really interesting play for augmented reality. I think recipe books could be.
That's genius.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. I mean, that's probably out of everything we talked about. That because I'm the resident cook of the household, so that makes so much sense to me.
Right?
I know we only have a couple minutes left, so I do want to actually get to Pacha. So when you decided to start writing for as your pet project, as your forefront project, what made you go in this direction? What made you go? I guess I don't know what you call 7 to 12-year-olds. The not quite a young adult kids, older kids, whatever age range that is. What made you decide to go that direction versus, say, young kids or even young adult?
My work is really informed by an understanding that we need to make a lot of change on the planet, that we're living in a way that's unsustainable. And I think that my generation hasn't done as good a job as it could in terms of preparing young people for a future in which we're behaving a little differently. We're more cognizant about the things that we use, the resources, and what kind of waste we're creating, and the food that we're eating. I think we're moving in that direction, but we're not quite there. I really wanted to make sure that my work was encouraging kids to remember that we're all connected, that we have everything we need within ourselves, that we can create the world that we want to live in. Pacha was designed to do that. Our book series, every single book in the book series is going to really reinforce those notions, as well as many other aspects of it. But that was a foundation that I thought it would be really helpful if I had got as a kid, and I wanted to see how we could get this information to young people at a much earlier age than I got it.
So Pacha's, this is the book entitled Pacha's Pajamas, or is there a little subtitle to that as well?
There's a subtitle. It's called Pacha's Pajamas, a story written by nature. And essentially it's the story of a young girl named Pacha who has big dreams. Pacha's dreams are bigger than the Andes Mountains, which are the homeland of our ancestors. When Pacha goes to sleep, the plants and animals on her pajamas become her guides in a dream adventure to learn more about herself and her connection to the natural world.
That is super interesting. I don't know if you did this on purpose, but I see the augmented link there. The graphics on her pajamas augment into her dreams. I don't. I like that though. That's and you have this plan to be more than just a singular story. You have a whole series planned for Pacha.
Yeah, her next book, she's going to have food on her pajamas. So there'll be corn, blueberry, jalapeno, avocado. She's going to go to a world called Foodlandia, where everything is made out of food. There's white bread neighborhoods and wheat bread neighborhoods. The Emperor Hamburgoni and his minion fries have lanced the cantaloupe sun, which is causing the weather to change. And Popsicle Mountain is melting. Broccoli Forest is on fire. Can Pacha and her little brother save the day before breakfast?
Oh, you turned my dream world into a nightmare with things starting to melt and set on fire. Foodlandia is my dream. That is my dream. That could be Kev's pajamas story for all I'm concerned.
Nice.
That one sounds super interesting. And that's only because I'm a foodie, not because I don't care about the environment. I just love food more. So it sounds like you guys, and I assume you're going to be continuing the augmented reality in the whole entire series.
Absolutely, yeah. We're getting such great feedback from it. It makes kids want to read, makes them want to pick up the book, it makes them engage deeper with the book as well.
Yeah, I've really when I saw that in some of the messages that you sent me, like that just kind of. Like I said, I've seen it used sparingly, like on the covers for comic books, just to bring them to life a little bit. So, and I think I've seen Crayola use it in some of their, they have like special augmented reality comic books that you can color and then they come to life. But other than that, I haven't really seen the technology used too often. Again, it might be because my kids are too young for it and I'm too old for it. But I love it. It seems like a really great idea to keep books in kids' hands, especially. I mean, I remember when I was, probably at least 10 to and older. I put books down. I was too cool for books back then.
Right.
So anything to, I guess, keep books in kids' hand is just great. And augmented reality sounds like it's a really cool, fascinating way to do it. So I'm excited to see what you and Pacha have in store for us in the years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited too, and my vision goes beyond Pacha, but my heart is with Pacha, and stick with it.
Well, when you are ready to talk about anything else, whether it's more Pacha, whether it's beyond Pacha, you let us know. We'd be happy to have you on the show. Before I let you go, please make my job easier and tell people where they can find you and Pacha.
All right. My email, in case you want to give me a shout, is dave@pachaspajamas.com. That's PACHASPAJAMAS.com. Our website, of course, is pachaspajamas.com as well. And we also have a Facebook page for Pacha's Pajamas, an Instagram, and a Twitter. So we'd love to connect.
And we will be sure to put all of that in our show notes so that everyone can, if they're too lazy to write it down or remember it, they can just click the link in our show notes. So, Dave, thank you once again for being on the show. And I'm super excited for this kind of new technology, new way to read that you've presented to us.
Absolutely, Kev. It's really great to have this conversation with you and to hear your enthusiasm. Thanks so much.
Not a problem. This has been a quick little bonus episode for Everything is Awesome. We're releasing it a little bit earlier than we normally do during the week here. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you find us, this podcast, Everything is Awesome, on Twitter at RealAwesomePod. You can find me on Twitter at ThatNerdyKev. That's where I do most of my tweeting and twatting. We are part of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. We're on CoreTempArts.com or on AwesomePodcast.com. For Everything is Awesome, I'm Kev. We've been awesome.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. To listen to more Core Temp Arts shows, visit CoreTempArts.com.